That's literally the next sentence in the speech. Really great, followed by just bad. Hello and welcome to another episode of Talk Shop, the Pink Elephant Communications online series that looks at speeches made by important people and analyses what they did well and what they could do better. My name is Colin Stone, and this time we are looking at the victory speech made by President-elect Donald Trump and the concession speech made by Kamala Harris. A disclaimer before we get into this: if you're looking for political insight, go to another channel because that's what they'll talk about. We're here to look at the communication, what they said and how they said it. Let's get into it.
And now it's going to reach a new level of importance because we're going to help our country heal. We're going to help our country heal. We have a country that needs help.
Stopping it here because I know President-elect Trump has talked in the past few months about what he calls the weave. And the weave is when he goes on a minute and a half, 2 minute long meandering ramble, but eventually gets to a salient point. The problem though is that there's two benefits that he's missing out on, and actually the audience is missing out on too. Benefit number one is for the audience. If rather than going on long rambling tangents, he paused, particularly after lines like this, "We're going to help our country heal," then the audience gets a chance to react. They can applaud and whoop and holler. The problem is, some of them do, but he continues speaking, and so they quickly quieten down because they want to hear what he's saying next. So that's where a pause, particularly after impactful lines, helps the audience. Benefit number two, it helps you, the speaker. It would help him, the speaker, because he gets a chance to reset, to consider what his next line is, to look at a script, look at the teleprompter, look at the audience around you, take it all in, and then move on. So if Trump paused more, these lines and his speeches would have more of an impact. Let's keep going.
Because there was no other path. There was no other path to victory. We also have won the popular vote. That was great. Very proud of that.
That's as understated as I've seen Trump talk about something as monumental as winning the popular vote. First time, I believe, he's done that in 3 attempts at running for president. But instead, it's delivered with that throwaway, "Oh, that was great." As if someone's asked how he slept that night. "Oh, slept great." So this is what we call injecting artificial enthusiasm. Because even if, I understand, he will be beyond exhausted, long campaign, months of campaigning, a very long day, I'm sure, too. But this is a huge moment. You've won the popular vote, but instead it's just delivered as a throwaway line. So something to always be aware of, regardless of how you feel. If there's a line that's a huge win for you, your business, or your party, deliver it with the gusto it deserves, and it will be met with that same huge response as what you've given it. So yeah, a missed opportunity here.
Us an unprecedented and powerful mandate. We have taken back control of the Senate. Wow, that's
good. It's the same thing again, which, wow, that's good. Look, I get you're tired, but you can do better than that. You're the president-elect. So look, again, I'm sure much of this, perhaps the entire thing, is ad-libbed. So I get there will be those impromptu moments where you're saying things out loud for the first time and you have almost an involuntary reaction. But yeah, in terms of a communication standpoint, from a speech-making perspective, give that line to anybody else in the Republican Party and it would be delivered very, very differently.
You know, I've said, go into the enemy camp. And you know, the enemy camp is certain networks, and a lot of people don't like to. "Sir, do I have to do that?" He just goes, "Okay, which one? CNN, MSDNC?" He'll say.
Pausing it here because that's a very interesting subtle joke there that I believe some of the audience missed. I can hear some people laughing, but there's a way in delivering that, in fact, you know what? I'm going to play it again because some people may have missed that.
CNN, MSDNC.
MSDNC rather than MSNBC, so DNC being Democratic National Convention, which then implies it's left-wing association. So, what to do with a joke like that? You've got to slow it down for a start, because some people will simply have misheard you because they're expecting MSNBC, but you've said MSDNC. There's only a couple of letters different there. Quickly checking in my head. MSNBC. There's only one letter difference, which is the D, and then it's been switched. So really slow down so that everybody hears it nice and clear, and then short pause, perhaps look around, demonstrate, hey, that was a joke, let's laugh about it, and then move on. So interesting, because it was subtle, and some people definitely missed that.
Tell you what a great honor this is. I want to thank you. I will not let you down. America's future will be bigger, better, bolder, richer, safer, and stronger than it has ever been before.
It's the same thing again, which is, I believe there were 6 different adjectives there, and if that were given to another Republican speaker, perhaps even the Vice President, J.D. Vance, that's a very different delivery, because with Trump, it is just that list. It will be richer, better, bigger, this, that, the next thing. Whereas, if you want those words to really stand out, each one has to be elevated with a raised tone and then a short pause. America will be richer, stronger, and you can feel the crescendo of the audience as that's happening. But instead, because it's just presented as like a shopping list, there's no audience reaction at all. So this is something which, like, is the president-elect going to change his oratory style? No. But would you, the viewer, if you're giving a speech, if you have a list of things that your organization wants to be or what the future looks like for you, let every word stand out, because that is what the audience will really remember, rather than here's a shopping list of all the things that you'll forget 45 seconds later. That's the end of the speech from Trump. Let's have a listen to Kamala's concession speech.
And the way we ran it over the 107 days of this campaign, we have been intentional about building community and building coalitions.
Pausing it there to talk about jargon, because it's one of the biggest issues that I've seen over my career in communication, which is you, the speaker, know what you mean, but the audience either has to interpret or they're unsure exactly what it is you've just said. And here's a good example. What is, to your average American, building a coalition, even building a community, could fall into that vague category. At Pink Elephant, one of the tests that we give on every course we run is, can you draw what you just said? Because it's a great way of finding out if what you've said is too complicated or if it's exactly hitting the mark. So this is the test I'd challenge the VP to attempt. Could you draw building a coalition? Answer, no, you can't. And so that is the challenge here, and for the Democratic Party, I believe, is to simplify their communication, because building coalition, sure, I understand what you mean, but does my 67-year-old mother-in-law? No, she hasn't a clue what that means. And that's how you engage audiences, is by speaking to them on a level that they understand. Sure, maybe 1 in 5 people gets it, but what about the 4 in 5 who nod and go, yep, I'm sure you have built coalitions, whatever that means. So if Harris could simplify this language further, give us an example. Talk visually about what you have done to build these coalitions. Even use that phrase at the end once you've explained it. And now we all get it. So it's frustrating because I understand her point, but it needs to be explained for everybody rather than just the small section of people who do get it.
Trump and congratulated him on his victory. I also told him that we will help him and his team with their transition, and that we will engage in a peaceful transfer of power.
Stopping it here because it's a really good example of making an effective counterpoint and counter-argument without having to be glaringly obvious. So the point here, of course, is the juxtaposition of a peaceful transfer of power, which makes the audience think about January 6th, when Trump supporters stormed the Capitol. So rather than have to point that out, the only thing she's done to allude to it is that word, peaceful. And there's two things she's done. Number one, included it for a start, because she could have left it out and talked about ensure a transition of power. But that would have missed the impact. So she's put the word peaceful in there to make the audience think back. But then the second thing she's done is she has emphasized, she's lifted the tone, she's slowed down a peaceful transfer of power. And now the audience is thinking, yeah, because we're different to what happened on January 6th. So you can do the same thing. If you want to make an effective point, this is what you can do with the addition of one word, a well-delivered one word.
People deserve. The fight for our freedom will take hard work. But like I always say, we like hard work. Hard work is good work. Hard work can be joyful work.
Pausing it here because it's further evidence, if you needed it, that even somber speeches need moments of levity. And I'm sure we can all think of occasions which have been somber, but actually it's those funny moments, it's the moments that bring a smile to our faces that really do give us that sense of actually it's not all bad. There is still hope, there is still joy to be found. And this is a good example of it. What I'll say in a few minutes when I come to this roundup is what I'll touch on briefly here. The delivery is really good from Kamala Harris. We've seen this throughout the campaign. If you compare her speech delivery here to when she was running for presidential nominee around 2020, very different people. So delivery, excellent. Language, we can work on.
And so to everyone who is watching, do not despair. This is not a time to throw up our hands. This is a time to roll up our sleeves.
That is the sort of visual language needed throughout the Democrats' communication, because it's so visual that the audience goes, all right, sure, we get it. So rather than the idea of throwing up your hands to say, well, what's the point? I can see the visual of, all right, roll up the sleeves, let's get to work. It's really effective communication, particularly in a speech and this section that's aimed at young people. That's a good message to have. And it's so far removed from things like building coalitions. So this is much more like it in terms of simple language.
This is a time to organize, to mobilize, and to stay engaged.
What was I just saying? That's literally the next sentence in the speech. Really great, followed by just bad. Like, what does that mean? Organize, mobilize, stay engaged. I've got nothing. And if I've got nothing, what do the voters have in their heads? What do the young people have in their heads? Organize? What do you want me to do? Mobilize sounds like an army? Stay engaged? I've already got TikTok. I already follow all of your accounts. What more do you want? So it's frustrating because the messaging is falling short. And I can see it here even in this concession speech, let alone the full campaign. That's pretty much the end of the speech from Kamala Harris. She says some thank yous and wraps up with a God bless America. So let me summarize what I make of these two speeches, because it's very interesting. With President-elect Trump, the language is great. It's simple. It's conversational. You could be anyone from any walk of life in that audience, watching at home, and you understand it. Conversely, with Kamala Harris, there are sections in that speech which even I'm struggling to figure out, what does she want me to do? What is she saying here? With phrases like building coalitions, mobilizing, and staying engaged. I'm struggling with that, so your average voter is going to struggle as well. But then on the delivery aspect, Kamala Harris is excellent. She knows when to add the emphasis, she knows when to pause, she has a great smile and it makes the audience smile as well. And there's those moments of levity in that more somber speech that are absolutely necessary to give that light and shade, to give that hope. Conversely, with Trump, the delivery is poor. It is, I understand, he's very tired. but his delivery is like reading out a shopping list, with commas and ad-libs and throwaway remarks that really needed to be given the same level of delivery that we saw from Kamala Harris. And I know there are people in the Republican Party who can do that, who can give speeches delivered at a very high standard. So while the president is unlikely to change that style between now and 2028, that is something from a communication standpoint that, in my book, he could do with a lot of tutoring. I trust you've enjoyed this edition of Talk Shop as much as I did, and if you're looking to improve your own presentation skills, you can do by heading to the Pink Elephant Academy. This is an e-learning centre where you can learn how to improve your writing, improve your speech making, understand how to work with the media more effectively, and just for you, for watching the whole of this video, you get a 35% discount if you use the code TalkShop, and that will give you a chunk of money off of whatever course you end up buying. Till next time, smile and speak slowly.